I finally framed the Cutie Cinderella newspaper from 9/11, the morning of 9/12, the newspaper right there.
Just when you think Hasan Piker can't get worse, he somehow finds a way. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet insanity, and more. This story has a bit of all of it, really, because we're going to check back in with Hasan Piker, the left-wing streaming star who, was a marginal figure in progressive politics, although he was a darling of the mainstream media because a lot of the woke, non-binary white women and woke gay men who work at these places thirsted for him, and so they wrote these glossy, glowing profiles. But so he got a lot of positive coverage, but now he's actually infiltrating the Democratic Party with some success, whereas he was on the outside of it for a long time. Now, candidates that represent his ideology and his movement are headed to Congress. Zoran is an ally and a fellow traveler of Hasan, and he's now the mayor of New York City and one of the most ideologically, but also popular figures in the Democratic Party. So Hasan is on the rise politically. He just got invited to speak to young Democrats. He reports back that they're all big fans of him. And thankfully, with his newfound importance and rise to relevance, he is scaling back some of the most toxic and acerbic things that he's said and done. He's trying to grow and evolve. He's in his mid-30s now. He's not such a troll. He has more nuance. Just kidding. He decided to do that, except the opposite, and double down on perhaps the most heinous thing he's ever said. He famously said, quote, "America deserved 9/11, right? Which he suggests that because of our or the military's or the U.S. government's actions in the Middle East, 9/11 was deserved, and those innocent people deserved to die. That is what he said so famously, so infamously at the time, and it is something that's haunted him, but he's now doubling down on it in a kind of despicable way by adding a newspaper from the day after 9/11. So they used to have these at the museum as well in D.C., which I always really liked, the museum dedicated to journalism. They had a whole wall of newspapers the day after 9/11 to see how the different ones covered it and how it was depicted, and it was a piece of history. He's added one of those, I believe it's the New York Times front page, to the background of his streaming set as some kind of homage to his 9/11 trolling. I'm not kidding. He's doubling down on this. So let's watch this clip where he explains the new addition to his set.
Also, you might have noticed some changes behind me. I finally framed the Cutie Cinderella newspaper from 9/11, the morning of 9/12, the newspaper right there. The newspaper that covered 9/11. It's now officially sitting behind me, and I moved the North Korean poster up in place of the fan art. We're going to find a new place to put all the fan art. Don't you worry. Okay. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, that's a PSA 10, by the way. That 9/11 poster, or not, the 9/11 news article is a PSA 10.
Setting aside the boys and girls and NBs, I guess he's still pretending that's a thing. Non-binary. Okay. Anyway, get it, guys? It's so funny because by the way, I want to be clear about this. None of this was a joke. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with edgy 9/11 jokes or dark humor, especially if you're a comedian or you're on a set or whatever. I really don't believe things are off limits. But he's not a comedian. Well, his original commentary about 9/11 wasn't a joke. It was an assertion of his actual thoughts and opinions as a political commentator who's unfortunately taken quite seriously. And then this is like a callback to it where he also seems to be kind of doubling down. So it's not just edgy jokes. It's not just trolling. It's him taking one of the most incendiary things he's ever said or done and mocking at people about it. I mean, imagine if you are somebody who's progressive, but you had a family who died in 9/11, a family member, right? Just a it's like these were civilians. These were innocent people who just went to work one day and never came home. And he's got the newspaper announcing their death as a prop in the background of his set. Imagine you're a progressive, you're even a socialist, but you're maybe from New York City, and you're like any person with any semblance of sanity, horrified by 9/11, which doesn't stop you from disagreeing or thinking they're horrible or strongly objecting to the things the U.S. military did in the Middle East. You can even discuss what the CIA theory blowback about how, the actions of our government in the Middle East may have caused or prompted or led to blowback events like 9/11. But that's very different from saying it's deserved, right? To say something happened because of something else is just a descriptive explanation of what occurred and what cause and effect. But to say something is deserved is to say that it is justified as a response, right? So it's a heinous thing, but the fact that he's doubling down on it like this shows a level of him not giving a really, and him saying, I'm on the rise, people are coming to me, and I don't have to blend into decent society or the semi-civility of mainstream politics. I'm going to keep being as abrasive and toxic and indecent as I've always been, and everyone's coming towards me. And that is bleak. I want to read you a couple tweets of people commenting on this from the left and the right, and then we're going to look at what he used to say about this whole scandal and how he's shifted quite a bit. Anyway, a couple tweets here. One from a liberal, Joshua Reed Eagle. If you care about liberal democracy, Hasan is not on your team. It's important to understand this. Democrats cannot embrace extremists who cheer on our adversaries. Doing so is profoundly irresponsible and will be perceived as repugnant by the vast majority of the country. So, on one level, I do agree with everything Joshua says here, but I think the ship's sailing. Like Democrats are doing this. But when you look at the rising stars of the Democratic Party, or the most popular figures, they include Zohran Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders, all self-described democratic socialists. The DSA movement is hijacking this party. And those are the radical kinds of leftists who love Hasan, who support not just, most of them would probably not say what he said about 9/11, to be clear, but they're fellow travelers ideologically with him, and they share overlap with him in the vision and values they have for the world. And so if Democrats were going to draw a line in the sand and say, like, we reject these extremists, the way that many of us have criticized the right for totally failing to do over the last decade, they would have done it by now, and they're clearly not doing it, at least to me. But he is right about one thing, Josh. The American public will absolutely, not just the progressive base, which actually does like Hasan. Somehow, for some reason, I don't get the appeal other than thirstiness. But like the normies who, vote every 4 years and check in and out of politics, who might have voted for Kamala Harris or might consider voting for Gavin Newsom or even AOC in 2028, if they actually see this continue to rise and be accepted, this extremism that's represented by the dirtbag left and the DSA, if that is actually accepted and mainstream to the point where it becomes an unavoidable part that even normies are exposed to, they will absolutely reject it. And frankly, that's probably the only way a Republican has a chance at all in 2028, is if they go so extreme and so left and so radioactive to normal people. Anyway, here's a criticism as well from a conservative, John Doyle, about Hasan Piker. He wrote, "One thing we learned on 9/11 is that average random Americans are capable of extraordinary courage." And he's, I'm sure, talking, of course, about the first responders. And that's one of the things that is so, in a way, is so tragic and heartbreaking, but also beautiful about 9/11, the way that people stepped up for their fellow citizens, the way firefighters rushed into a burning building to try to save people. It's like it shows at the same time the worst and best of humanity, an event like 9/11. But what he's pointing out here is that it showed us how average Americans are capable of extraordinary courage. But then he says, this is foreign to Hasan, who whines like a when his dog moves more than once in a 12-hour period, when his chat disagrees with him, or when Sam Hyde trolls him. And he says, "You are a hyena nipping at a downed lion. Every American we lost that day was worth 100 of you. Never forget that." Harsh, sure, but not wrong. Honestly, I mean, where's the lie? I'm not detecting a lie. So I want to show you guys briefly a clip of Hasan from several years back where he was essentially, this is shortly after he made those infamous America deserved 9/11 comments. He tried to walk them back and apologize and even made some insane excuses for them. And now he's embracing it and doubling down on it and doesn't care. And I think the fact that even just 5, 6 years ago, he had to like pretend to be sorry about saying it. And now he doesn't, says something unfortunate about just the rot and downward trajectory in our ongoing race to the bottom in political media. Anyway, here's this clip from him with his uncle, Cenk Uygur, I think speaking in 2019, shortly after he made these infamous comments. Let's listen.
Saying Americans deserve 9/11 is a completely different statement and one that's wrong.
No, I didn't say Americans deserve 9/11. I said America deserves 9/11.
Right, but that's...
Sorry, that's a distinction without a difference. Yeah, that's totally a distinction without a difference in this context.
9/11.
Right, but that's
and
still
in that
wrong.
Moment, well, maybe you could chalk it up to English being my second language or whatever you want to chalk it up to. Obviously, if...
Sorry, no, Hasan. We will not be chalking it up to English being your second language. Give me a break. As you can hear in this interview, I don't know whether English is actually a second language. I will take that at face value. He's a professional streamer. He's a professional talker. And as you can hear in this interview, and all his streams from back then and today, totally 100,000% fluent in English. He did not, that was not because of your ESL status. All right, that is insane gaslighting. I didn't see this at the time. I wasn't following him so closely back then because he was a much smaller name and I was doing a slightly different kind of political work. I was actually still in college as well, where I would have maybe just been graduated. Regardless, nobody is accepting that as an excuse, Hasan. Come on. And that's insulting to people who are ESL and who, which I've always honestly really admired people who learn 2 languages. It's very difficult. I tried to learn Spanish and never became more than passably conversational. And to suggest that, oh, well, ESL people might actually support a terror attack. No, babe. Absolutely not. Anyway, let's keep listening.
If I followed that statement up immediately with, well, we're still continuing to fund the nation state responsible for this, and we act like they are our greatest allies, when that kind of arms sale
I understand the overall policy point you're making, Hasan, but saying it that way is clearly wrong.
Yes.
Because at least people have the
Good for you,
impression that
Yes, I should have used more precise and better use of the language there. It's messed up that I would even give the opportunity to the right to try to morally grandstand on an issue like this when they are 100% responsible for all of the bloodshed that has been caused.
All right, I love how he's acting like, I'm really sorry that I allowed the right to distort my words and attack me baseless. Oh my God, give me a break. But if you watch that full interview, at the time back then, he was doing damage control, right? He was saying over and over again, that's not what I meant. I am sorry, but I was trying to make this point, not this. I spoke the wrong words. And he was making excuses. It's not like he was really taking accountability, but at least he wasn't affirmatively doubling down on the sentiment. Because he got so much backlash back then, even from his supporters and fans, and even from the progressive flank, and it was hurting him. So he felt the need to do some damage control. The fact that now, these 6 or 7 years later, he not only doesn't feel the need to apologize for it, but he's like memeing about it and doubling down on it so acidically, I think that tells you something unfortunate about the race to the bottom, the decline in standards of decency and civility, and the rise of the dirtbag leftism that Hasan Piker represents, where that sentiment is now more and more mainstream, so he can still appeal to the mainstream while standing by the worst aspects of it. Rather, whereas before, where that was more of a fringe attitude, if he wanted to stay in the good graces of more mainstream audiences or wider audiences, he had to kind of walk back some of the harshest edges of it. Now, not so much. And it's not only his fault or the left's fault at all that we just have degraded standards and civility and decency down this way. Republicans and conservatives have played a huge role in it. We don't have to get into all that now, but none of that is an excuse for Hasan Piker doing this and doubling down and, frankly, mocking 9/11 victims and their families. Again, wow, what a wonderful, wonderful stand-up guy we have here leading a political revolution in America. What's not to love? That's my take on the situation, guys, but you'll have to let me know in the comments below what you think, especially anybody personally affected or touched by 9/11. I want to hear from you. I'm sure this is really tough, and I am sorry people are treating your trauma and tragedy like this, but anyway, guys, make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button. Do consider becoming a channel member. I call out the far left and the far right. That's not always the best business model. If you just pander to one side or you're just an ultra extremist edgelord, you can get millions of views and become rich like Hasan Piker and his 3 houses or whatever. Or I think it's just a 1 mansion, but still you get my point. I don't do that. So I need support from viewers like you. Hit the join button or click the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member, guys. It's the best way to support me. And with that, we'll leave it there for that one and be back with more real soon.